Hey, what's up? What's up, 11:59? So I've been meaning to make this video for a while, and I've kind of been putting it off for a couple reasons, most of which will become more obvious as we get into this video. I was supposed to record this video in my office with the lights and everything set up, but like I said, I keep putting it off. I was gonna do it tonight. I ended up not. And then ended up not. Can't do it tomorrow. Well, I could, but later tomorrow because I'm headed to Vegas in the morning with one or both of my kids. We're gonna go pick up. Originally, we were picking up both of their friends, my old pastor's daughters from New York. Now it's just one of them. So my son's a little bummed. I don't know if he's still going, but obviously I'm taking Lily to pick up her friend, which that was like the whole thing from the beginning. And then her sister was going to come, and then now she's not going to come. So I'm just a little bummed, but it's okay. I think, probably. He'll get over it. So I'm kind of stalling. So I'll get into this eventually. I think we're just going to do this very much like Dry Creek Wrangler School. And I'm going to stay here for the next 20 or 30 minutes and just kind of have this conversation. Instead of, shooting it a little more. I'm a little low energy today. Well, I think I'm just gonna talk. So there's a lot going on, and that will lead to today's discussion. If you see me look over this way, it's because I have this weird obsessive thing with like, are people driving in the parking lot? And if they are, like, what's the point? Like, it doesn't matter, but I'm always like, are they? I'm gonna just be really real in this post or in this video, and I don't know what'll happen. We'll see. I got a lot to talk about. My plan is to then upload this tomorrow. We'll see. Talk about a few things that would normally a pastor would probably not talk about. So let's start with this morning. So I woke up this morning to a phone call from my grandma letting me know that my grandfather passed away this morning. So there's that. I also got a text today from my best friend / youth pastor telling me that they will no longer be coming to the church and are moving back to New York. Well, leaving. I just happen to know it's back to New York. Mind you, this is after just a week ago, he promised me they were not moving. And even if they did, it would be at least 6 months because they understand that they are in the middle of grief right now and would be making bad decisions. And then so kind of out of nowhere, it's, they weren't at church today. They weren't here last week either. Gave them some space. And then today I sent a text and was like, hey man, you guys not coming to church anymore? And it was like, yeah, no, we're not gonna be attending Calvary anymore until we leave. Leave? You promised me you were not going anywhere and would talk to me about it if you were. So I guess you could say in one day, I've lost my grandpa and my best friend. So, and my youth pastor, which he's already wasn't the youth pastor, hasn't been for about a month and a half. The first month was accidental because he was on a missions trip and then at a family funeral. So I guess it's official after that text today that I guess we're not friends anymore. Which is weird to say. And I won't go into too much of that because I don't want to give out too much of his business or their business because they have their own story and things they're going through and processing. Ironically, and I'm laughing, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm laughing because it's easier to laugh. Ironically, so I said today is basically the day I found out, I guess he's not my friend anymore. And the day I lost my grandfather. And the irony is that the whole thing that led to him not being my friend anymore started with him losing a family member. So again, I'm not going to talk too much about that. Maybe at some point we'll see how this all goes. I'm still praying for them. I'm still praying that like God gets a hold of them and things turn around. So I'm not going to talk too much about that until everything's kind of said and done. But yeah, so I think I need to get a sweatshirt. I'm getting cold all of a sudden and starting to shiver. Okay. It's getting dark, but we've got these lights out here, so should be fine. I got my sweatshirt. Yeah, let's get back to it. I find it funny that even in my like grandpa vlog, new style, just sit and shoot, like Dry Creek Wrangler school type thing, just one shot, I still have to have multiple shots and walk around and do stuff. Okay, all right, let's get back to this. I do apologize, there will be road noise, especially as trucks and stuff go by, and I don't even have my headphones set up. I'm literally just recording this on my cell phone, because I was sitting out here and I was like, you know what, it's time. So it's either now or never, or now or in a while. I like what my hair's doing now. Okay, so yeah, okay, talk about the Friends / youth pastor thing. Let's kind of keep doing that. Okay, I don't know, guys. I'm sorry, it's not cooperating. I don't remember exactly what I was saying, so I'll kind of have to jump back on track. So this video is about Pillar 3. I've been talking about, Pillar 3, the mental health. Today seems like the appropriate day to talk about it and say some things I've been nervous and apprehensive about saying and talking about. I feel like my wife and I have talked about this for months and, feel like it's time to talk about and discuss, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, this cost me my friend, this topic. It's cost me so far one church member, a parishioner who stopped attending, and we'll see as we talk about it if we lose more people, or if it was the opposite and God uses it and we gain a bunch of people and are able to help, minister. So we shall see how this goes. Okay, so mental health. So yeah, today, so yeah, that's all that's to say. Low energy, like I said, today. I lost my friend and my grandpa. And so yeah, I apologize if this video is just, like I said, super real, not super polished. And we're just gonna go with it. And I'm probably gonna be repetitive because I start to get real repetitive when I am having an uncomfortable conversation. So if I keep saying things, like keep referencing the realness of the vlog of this episode, or any of those kind of things, I'll probably say Dry Creek Wrangler School or Sam Sulek like 5 more times. How do I stop it from doing that? Hold on. Well, that didn't help. Okay, maybe it helped. Okay. No, this is how I get when I'm trying to avoid a conversation. I'm better at hiding it in like counseling sessions. Mental health. So part of this. Okay, so we just got back from camp, and one of the nights there. Okay, this is to establish like why mental health is so important. I talked about the 3 pillars of this channel. The first one being it's a way for me to connect with you, a member of the church. Number 2, I talked. To talk about the whole, 100-day routine days. I had to start that over, to be honest, if I'm being super frank. I have to start that over because of camp. I totally fell off. And I would just keep going and just give myself a really bad grade. But I don't even remember. I need to document what day I started it on because I don't remember. That's how bad I failed at it. So we'll start that again here. Also, God kind of spoke to me about some of that stuff, and so I need to make some changes. So we're going to start again, I guess, Tuesday. I'm out of town all day Monday. On version 4. Get it eventually, I guess. So mental health is pillar 3. And I want to just tell some stories that establish why this stuff's so important. Well, first off, like I said, the stuff my friend's going through and cause it, essentially the relationship, like the fall of the relationship. Obviously, There's some not good mental health stuff there. The thing that originally started all started with this. It was all revolves around mental health. With our students, obviously mental health is an issue. We all know, like, come on guys, we live in Ely. I will try to be careful how I say things because I don't want to be overly triggering, and I also don't want the algorithm to like shut my videos down. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to talk about this stuff. I mentioned in an earlier video that my wife is certified as a mental health coach. Is it just mental health coach? Mental health coach certification. Maybe that's why I feel like I'm missing a word. And I'm in the process of it. So I've just about finished module 1 of 3. I've mostly gone through like the ethics side of things, and she's done the whole class. That's a focus that we're obviously gonna be really taking, talking more about in the church, is just because it's such, from the adults that we have, and we have a lot of people in AA, they're a little more in touch with some of this stuff. We have a lot of people in different forms of recovery. We've got teenagers who are struggling, and that's what I was saying is we live in Ely, in White Pine County. We have a lot of, I think I'm going to use the phrase unalive. I think that's the word we're supposed to use. That won't get me flagged. So I've been here for less than 3 years, a little over 2.5 years. And I think we're at like, if I'm off, I'm only exaggerating a little bit. I think we're getting close to a dozen that I've heard of public stories of students who have unalived themselves in less than 3 years. It happened right after we got here. At one point, we had like 6 or 7, all within like a week and a half. That's when we started the after school program with the youth ministry. As it made some changes. We just got back from camp. And there's a lot of stuff. Like, we had the accident that just happened like a couple weeks ago. So there's a lot of young death stuff going around. All of us, and a lot of it revolves around this topic of just people just aren't okay. And I don't mean that in a bad way, and I don't mean that in a church like people need to get right kind of way. I mean it from like a mental health and emotional health. People don't know how to deal with things, and people even in the church. The church is typically not much better. Those who make it or stick around typically do better, but like, how many people do we lose? Because they just, couldn't pray enough, or just couldn't, whatever the phrase is. And we have so many people deconstructed and walking away and all these things. I know I'm doing a lot of looking away from the camera. That's another tactic. Because again, this is uncomfortable. And I literally was joking with my wife as I walked out. I went to get my sweatshirt. All right, well, I'm out there, I'm recording this video. It's either going to make me famous or cost me my job. We'll see which way it goes. She's like, you always have me. And I'm like, no, that's all that matters. So, I'm joking about like the making me famous. I guess I wouldn't lose my job either, but it could definitely, it could hurt. Okay, so we're at camp, right? We're at camp last week. And one of the nights, they're talking about deliverance, and you're going through some deliverance stuff, and Aaron Perez, who's essentially our DYD, if you're from, other pastors from other districts, we don't technically have a DYD, but your closest, if you come from that background, would be DYD. For you, those of you in like the corporate world, he's like the regional manager for Northern California and Nevada youth students. He does a lot more than that, but that's one thing. So he's at the camp, and they're leading some stuff, and his wife is kind of helping some kids because they're really sensing that some of the struggle that they're having in the altar is that there's some deliverance that needs to be done. And so she walks through this thing where they're essentially kind of going through this like deliverance process. And I know I sound like a crazy Pentecostal right now, but and so she's like, and then you're supposed to say the thing that you're essentially, and like the example she gave was like lust or hate or, like a certain addiction or something like that. And I'm way in the back. I have my 9-year-old son, and he's sleeping in the back. So I'm literally like, don't get much more Pentecostal than, growing up, going to church camp, sleeping on the pews, right? As services go in the wee hours of the night. And all the Baptists are like, we do that too. And all the, they're like, we do that too. That's not just Pentecostal. So I'm watching from the back. And so I'm not in the altar, so I can't hear this. Like, my wife and my youth leaders are in the altars, and various degrees of the seats in the altars. And And so I don't hear what any of the students say. But then the next day, we have like pastor debrief sessions. And the next day they're telling us that basically they've talked to a lot of leaders who are in the altars, and like the overwhelming, what like kind of all the kids said, I'm sure there were some other things. I'm sure there was some anger or some there was different things right? But they said overwhelmingly what they all heard, every kid like saying that they need deliverance from, they all said suicide. Okay. All right. I mean, when I was a teenager, that would have probably been like I would say the biggest issues would have probably been like anger / like a sense of like no self-worth, like I'm garbage type, no one loves me type thing, and like some sort of like having sex with girlfriend, boyfriend, something like that, right? But no, it's all suicide. I'm like, okay, this is definitely. My wife and I've talked for months about how this channel, I've been using my other channel and doing weightlifting stuff, and about how like God has set us up in a position to where like this is something we need to talk about more. There's a giant moth. It like flew right up behind the camera. Need to talk about more. And again, that's one of the 3 pillars of this channel. In fact, it's going to be a big pillar of this channel. So there's like the whole day in the life of like rural church pastor. Me using it just because I think having the process of daily vlogging, even though I've missed a few days. I was at camp. Give me a break, okay? And I even posted a couple days while I was on camp. But the internet was terrible. So there wasn't really anything I could do there. And I've slept the last day and a half. So, and as, it's going to be, some of it's going to be, day in the life pastor. Some of it's going to be like, hey, I'm teaching things. Like, here's a scripture. And I'm going to just teach on a scripture or a topic or something like that. I'm very reluctantly starting to study Sabbath because I felt like it was something God kind of highlighted at this camp for me. And so I'll be sharing, I've just got a ton of books on it. The one guy who spoke in it, I'm going to set up a meeting with him to talk to him. I'm going to talk to some people, like do some interviews. And it's something I'm going to be studying for like the next several months. So I'll be talking about that and that journey as I, kind of going down that path as well. I'm not a big believer in the Sabbath, and I feel like I'm getting a little rebuked. I'm definitely a workaholic most of the time. So the mental health, that's the other big portion. And as Tristan and Rebecca have stepped down / we'll just leave it at step down from youth ministry, and we're now kind of in a more prominent role. This is clearly something that needs to be, especially when with our students with the community we live in. This is something that we're going to our Ely, Calvary and Ely, and also Desert Oasis and Round Mountain. Desert Oasis and Round Mountain is a little bit of a different story. I'm sure there's this stuff's an issue too, but it's a little different. White Pine is a little off the charts when it comes to some of this stuff. So we've set the church up to be very family focused in terms of, the full family, from kids up to parents with children, the whole youth, the whole gamut. And so this is the whole holistic approach type thing. This is something that we can't avoid. We can't just teach on being a good parent or being a good youth student or being a good kids church student and not address this stuff and deal with this stuff. Hold on. All right, it's getting dark, and that light, it's a motion sensor light on the timer, it went off, so I just wanted to see how much better the lighting is. I have to get back on track again. Okay, whole family, so this is a big thing, with the students we have, with the community we live in, with the adults, the parents. This is gonna be a big focus, right? And again, I don't want it to be, I have incorporate more on Sundays, but I don't want just we're not going to be the mental health church where oh man, I want to go there every single Sunday. It's just about the same thing. which again, well, this vlog, and if I start a podcast or anything on this channel, is a better format, a better avenue for that than just on Sundays. And then also I'm hoping that this opens up, like my videos, like most people in town know me for various reasons, one of which is the content that I produce on this channel and my other channel and the church page. So like if I become known for this stuff, it'll give people the opportunity. I already have I have shirts I wear that say like, hey, if you need prayer, tap me on the shoulder. I've got different stuff. It's just make that one less barrier, because if people know me for my content and know, hey, this is a guy who talks about this stuff. Him and his wife, they've gone through certification, they've gone through licensing, they've gone through, I'm a chaplain as well. They're a person we can talk to who can help. So yeah, that's the point of pillar 3. So with that, I already started off with talking about we're talking about losing my grandpa and my best friend on the same day. And again, it's not like I just found out today, so that's a bit of a stretch to make it more dramatic for the video and from one perspective. But in another perspective, it's totally true, because today's the day it was official. We've still been texting. I've been pretending like I didn't know that he's listed his house and he's leaving, and he's been pretending that, maybe pretending, maybe not, but texting with him about a trip that we had planned in October, and he's just talked to me about it, like he doesn't know he's not going to be here for it. And so today was the day it was official, where I just was like, hey man, you weren't at church. This is 2 weeks in a row. Are you guys not coming anymore? And he basically said both. They're not coming to church anymore and they're leaving. So started off with that. Now we can get to the main thing. You're like, well, that seems like that would be the main content. You would think, wouldn't you? So I guess kind of big announcement. I don't really know how to say this really all that well, because normally when we've had these conversations with people over the last few months, my wife has done the talking. I've pulled like a Moses, and she's been like my Aaron. So a bit of an announcement is, I love pausing there, because people always think we're going to announce that we're leaving. It's just funny to me. It's just funny where people's minds go. So a bit of an announcement. About a year ago, actually, no, exactly a year ago, because last year Brandy went to camp. I didn't go. Tristan went, and then we had a much smaller group last year. We had 14 kids this year with 4 leaders. So 18 altogether. Last year we had like 6 or 7 kids, and then we only had the 2 leaders. Tristan went as the male leader, Brandy went as the female leader. The year before that it was me and Cody, and we only had 3 kids, my 2 kids and Lila. So she gets back from camp, literally like almost to the day a year ago we find this out. I was kind of upset about a couple of things, and some things have been bothering me. And so we were in Round Mountain, and we went for a drive. And Round Mountain, I just have these trails I love to drive on Round Mountain, and I go rock climbing and all kinds of stuff out in Round Mountain. As outdoorsy as Ely is, like I don't do that stuff here very well. Like I do it all in Round Mountain, because I've got like my trails and stuff that I know about and I've explored. So we're out for a drive out in the middle of nowhere. We're kind of arguing a little bit, to be honest. We're kind of fighting a little bit. We got I'm having a bit of an issue with a couple things. And after like 2 hours of dealing with some other stuff, talking about our marriage, talking about some other stuff, just talking about some frustrations and stuff, back and forth. It was almost like an afterthought towards the end of this conversation. And we've talked about this before, but it's never really stuck. We basically realized that, and this is essentially the big announcement. I think I've teased this out long enough. We basically realized that I am possibly bipolar. So we spend like another hour driving around talking about that, and seems pretty obvious. So we start researching, start listening to some books, audiobooks, some looking at different quizzes and different things. Now, you can't technically know for sure. It's a bit of a hard process. Like and it's kind of expensive, and it takes time, and it's uncertain, because you essentially, my understanding is, you go through, like, you've got to see like a psychiatrist for multiple months, And one of the ways they really determine, like, yeah, we're pretty sure, is like they start putting you on medication, and over a couple years of adjusting medication, you know, they can kind of figure out, yeah, we're pretty sure, you know, you're responding well to medication. Obviously I'm not going to do that. I didn't start taking Tylenol until I was like almost 40. I was like 35. Like I would go to the dentist and they would like do my teeth and they'd send me home with pain medication. I wouldn't take it. I'd just go home and go to sleep. But if I'd wake up, if my teeth still hurt because the medication they gave me wore off, I just go back to sleep. And then the next day, okay, now I feel fine. Now the pain's gone. So like I've literally just in the last like 5 years started to even taking Tylenol, not taking medication. That's just a personal, you know, thing. And I've studied it and we've looked at it. It's just, it doesn't, and honestly, the type I have too is not, it wouldn't be all that effective. And I'll go into those details in another video. So this is kind of like the announcement video. I'll do another video where I go into some more of these. I'm sure there's a ton of questions. Feel free to put questions in the comments. And I'll respond to them in this next video in terms of like, what type of bipolar? Like, how long have you known? I kind of said that already, but there's more to it than that. Like, when did it start? Or whatever questions you may have. Are you quitting because you found this out? No, this was a year ago. Well, are you going to get diagnosed? Are you going to get on medication? I kind of answered that one, but whatever your questions may be, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll address them as many as I can, depending on how many we get. I may get done in the next video. So, yeah. I mean, that's the big announcement. That's the story. Like I said, I'm going to do a follow-up video, like a part 2 that goes into a lot more of the details. But yeah, so that was a year ago. And so the last year, almost exactly, because it was like a week after camp, and it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's 3 days after camp. And this would have probably been like a Friday. Today's Sunday. So it's right about almost exactly a year, depending on how the calendar fell in terms of the dates and stuff. So that we pretty much knew for sure. And like I said, we've done a bunch of studying. She's done more than I have. And as she would say it is, so yes, just to clarify, it's undiagnosed, but she's like, you would never convince me it's not the case. And we spent the last year working on, you know, and I've spent the last year, and she's obviously there supporting me, but the last year working on certain things. So it's funny because I had a conversation, I made the comment, it's cost me one parishioner. I've told a few people, so I told Tristan, we told Tristan and Rebecca, because they were our youth pastors and she was the office worker at the time, and we spent the most time with them. That was about 6 months ago. They haven't been able to handle it, and that was part of it. That was part of his thing where this all kind of started to break down. There's more to it than this. It's not fair to say this, but in one sense, that is part of what happened. Is he just couldn't handle being friends with me anymore. Again, layered, nuanced. Don't go jumping down his case. There's a lot more to it than that, including their own grief and stuff with having a tragic loss in the family, with her sister and some other stuff. But in the conversation we had that led to everything kind of blowing up, he did admit, and he literally said that, yeah, he can't handle it. And the last 6 months have been like the hardest 6 months of his life since he's known, and he can't handle it. And can't handle, the last 6 months hasn't been able to handle like being friends with me, which that kind of sucked, to be honest. Like, oh, okay. And then in terms of when I said, you know, so we told them, and then, oh, that light went out again, but I'm almost done. I'll wrap this up. I told my mom. I didn't tell my dad. I'm assuming my mom told my dad. I told my mom when my dad was out of the house. And then just about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, we told some other church leaders and friends of ours, Doug and Stephanie. And now, because we've been getting ready for making this announcement, we told some other people. Like, I've been trying to tell my sisters, but it's not worked out that we've been able to get together. So Brandy finally just called and talked to them. She's told her parents. So over the last few months, we've been preparing, like, who needs to know before I just like start posting this stuff on YouTube and making it public. And I'll come back to why I'm doing that here in a second. So when I make the comment about losing parishioners, I did tell a couple ladies who I was having a conversation with, and they made the comment, and they're like, they had a couple, questions or concerns about some stuff, and we talked, and it was really more of just, it wasn't so much questions or concerns. There was just some questions, really. And most of it had to do around some follow-up. Just she had some questions. She has a financial background, so she had some questions as far as like the business meeting and stuff that happened a few months before. And I told her, hey, I mean, we those are public, those financials are public. I was like, you'll understand better than I will. You work with spreadsheets and stuff. I'll just print you out a copy of all the financials from the business meeting. And so we met after church. I gave it to her, and I could be mixed up my timeline. Maybe I gave them to her later. No, I think that's when I gave them to her, because I told her. And so we met. I gave them to her. I printed them out, and I was like, here's what she wasn't a member, so I was like, here's what all the members got at the business meeting. And so it was this, two ladies, and they're like, oh yeah, thank you so much. They're like so excited at the end of the meeting, like, oh, thank you so much for talking with us. Like this was just such a great meeting. The few little questions we had, like, you answered everything. Basically, like, oh, we just feel so happy and with the outcome of this meeting. And they're like, one of them made the comment, like, yeah, you explained everything perfectly. This was all great. This is, everything's great. Like sometimes you don't seem very approachable, but then other times you seem more approachable. And so you're like, yeah, this was great. We were kind of worried to try to come in and have this meeting with you, but this was great. You're incredibly approachable. We're so glad we had this conversation. And I just told them, this was quite a while ago. This is months before I ended up telling anyone else other than Tristan and Rebecca. They were the only ones who knew at this point. Maybe my mom, I can't remember timeline-wise. So I just said, all right, ladies, I'm just going to tell you something, because I just felt compassion. I'm like, oh man, if they feel like their pastor cares about them sometimes, that's too dramatic, is approachable sometimes and other times isn't approachable, and they're like, this is weird. So I just told them, I said, Brandon, I found out, so this would have been about 6, so this was probably right after I told Tristan and Rebecca, because I remember saying about 6 months ago, and I said, so that's why, so sometimes I feel approachable and sometimes I don't feel approachable, is because I am. Like, there's times, like, if I'm manic, I'm not very approachable, and people don't think they can just come up to me and talk to me, but if I'm base or even depressive, then I am more, approachable. And I'm like, so that's the reason why, like, you're dead on is with that, is sometimes it seems like I'm approachable, sometimes it seems like I'm not. And they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, hey, don't tell anyone, keep this a secret. We haven't really said anything, and we don't really know if we're gonna ever tell everyone or how it's gonna work out. And they're like, oh, okay. And then I've never seen one of the ladies, she's still here and she still attends the church, and we love her. Well, we love them both, but those weren't connected in terms of, it's like we don't love the other one. I've never seen the other one again. Stopped coming to church, and I just thought, okay, she's out of town sometimes, and so maybe she's had some doctor's visits, or she had visiting family or something, and kind of reaching out, how's she doing, type of thing, and then kind of follow up. And finally she was just like, and so she kind of gave me a reason. It wasn't because of that. She didn't come out and say, I'm just not comfortable having a pastor with bipolar. That is my guess. I could be wrong. If she sees this and is offended, I'm sorry. Like, I maybe I'm 100% wrong, and maybe it's just a coincidence that the day I said this was the same day that she decided that she needed to attend another church. Am I saying deer? So either way, again, and I'm happy for her, and she's, she seems like she's doing well. So she's not the first person to leave the church, won't be the last. So that is my assumption. It seems pretty likely. So that's why I say, yeah. So if you're like, oh, well, how's it? Well, I haven't made it public yet, but so far, like I said, we've lost essentially 2 congregants, and by 2, one's a family of 5 / best friend / youth pastor. So that part's not going so well. So hopefully that's not a trend. Hopefully that when I post this and it's out, I'm hoping it's more of a comfort to people, and that people can feel like, oh, I can approach my pastor to talk about my my stuff, because I know that he understands. He's not an ivory tower, and he has the perfect little life, and he would never understand what I'm going through. And hopefully that kind of breaks the ice, where people can be like, I'm struggling with depression, I'm struggling with suicidal thoughts, I'm struggling with whatever it may be. I mean, unrelated, but like alcoholism or whatever, just other things, because it's like, oh, I feel like I can go to him. We had a thing at camp the first night. Before they did anything with students, they said, are there any leaders? And they kind of described some hurt and some stuff, and a bunch of leaders went up, raised their hand and went up for prayer. And then the rest of us went up and prayed for them, and some students came up and prayed for them. But the fact that half of all the leaders / youth pastors there came up for that really it opened things up, where I know in our group we would have not had the same response if that had not happened, because they got to see the authenticity, and they got to see the fact that oh, these aren't just perfect leaders who are just trying to preach the Bible at me all the time, but they don't understand what my life is like. They got to see that, okay, we have four leaders here from Calvary. 2 of them went up. The other 2 prayed for them. So, okay. And so then that opened up ministry doors for everyone, but specifically in our group. I guarantee you we would not have had half the results we did and the breakthroughs we did if that had not happened first. So my hope, and this is what my wife and I have been praying about for about 6 months, she's like, I'm just going to leave it in your timing, whenever you feel you're ready. It's a big thing. Most people would, as a pastor, would probably not talk about this. You look online, there's not a lot. She's like, there's 2 other pastors that she can find who have some sort of podcast or TikTok account. One of them is a podcast about being a bipolar pastor. She's like, he has a couple episodes in his podcast about it. And then now he just interviews people about all kinds of different topics. It doesn't even seem to be about that anymore. And there's one guy who would post videos on TikTok, but he hasn't posted in 3 months. And she's like, I feel like this could be definitely, she's like, now this is on, I can't do this. I can't make this decision for you. You obviously have to be okay with this. But I feel like this is something that I don't want to say such a time as this, because it's not the best phrasing, but something that God is going to use to open up doors and ministry and opportunities with others. And whether that turns into any kind of, who cares? If it just even help, and that'd be great. I want to help as many people as possible. But so it's not a bid to try to go viral or something like that. But if we could help others, she says there's a podcast she listens to with 2 wives that's really helpful. But again, it's not from a Christian worldview. And so it's helpful, but again, it's not from a Christian worldview, and it's from the wives. And then you add the fact of the pastor, and then the whole rural church ministry thing. And so I was like, okay, there's too many things here that have the potential to help some others to keep this a secret and not talk about it, and not use it as kind of a ministry. I don't want to say tool. I guess platform is probably the best word. So as our students know, for one thing, that's going to help. So students who are dealing with depression, anxiety, different things, to have I don't want to necessarily call myself, a senior pastor. I'm kind of doing the role of youth pastor right now, but we're working on some stuff there. To have a senior pastor who understands them or gets them in that sense, I think will go a long way. Just like having 2 of their youth leaders go forward for prayer, really help at camp. I think, it'll be a big deal. Brandy's always talked about, her things she's gone through in her life. And we've talked about things we've gone through in our ministry and our marriage. And it's always been, a blessing to others to be able to hear from that testimony. I just think this is the next one. It's just, this one has a little more risk to, blow up in my face. As it's not even made it public. And like I said, I've already lost several relationships. So with that, we will move forward. If anyone sees this or finds out, hey, my pastor's bipolar, I'm not comfortable with that. No shade. I would ask that you don't lie to me and make up an excuse or something. Or I hate the whole God's calling us somewhere else. If that's not true, God gets blamed for a lot of things. God's like, bro, my phone is not as busy as you guys seem to think it is. I am not calling you guys as much as you think I am. So that's annoying when if it's like clearly like, you know, but that's fine. You don't, and you have the conversation, don't have the conversation. Again, I'd rather not be lied to. Like, no, I'm not going to be upset. Like, oh, you know, this family or this person left because they're uncomfortable. I get it. I understand. There was a period of my life that if I found out the pastor is bipolar, I would have been like, well, why does he read his Bible? Why doesn't he just believe for healing? Like, what the heck is wrong with him? I might address some of that stuff maybe in that part 2 video I was talking about. So I get it. So if anyone's like, yeah, I'm not super comfortable, like, let's go to the Baptist church, or let's, go somewhere else. I get it. Rick is great. They're literally right there across the street. In fact, and they have a steeple. Lucky. They've got a steeple in their church. We don't. We have a big cross out front, but they have an actual steeple. So that's one thing that's kind of cool. And they have, our son, our youngest, goes over for VBS. I don't really know him personally. I know a lot about him. My wife knows a little bit more because she's been over there for VBS. This is a great church, yeah, go over there. So I get it, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't want someone to feel like, man, now I'm stuck here. Like, no, it's fine. I'm not, you're not going to hurt my feelings. But I do hope, one, I hope that doesn't happen. But then two, I hope that, even if that does happen with a few people, I hope and I believe, we believe, me and my wife believe that, and my family, my kids know. We told them first. We told them maybe the same day or maybe the next day. That same weekend for sure. I mean, my youngest doesn't really quite understand that so much. My older two, obviously, both being in high school. My oldest just graduated. They understand that quite a bit more. Where's I going with that? Anyways, we as a family believe. Yes, we believe that's part of the ministry that God has for us. So yeah, just gonna leave it in God's hands. This is a big pillar, so you will be seeing a lot of content on that. And I will, because I know it will do well. Like, there will be lots of shorts that will take pieces where I'm talking about bipolar pastor and things like that. There's a truck. I will, post, so you'll see that kind of stuff, because I know that will open up the audience even more. And my hope, honestly, like, my goal is to be able to, be at a restaurant or something out in public, and someone will come up to me and be like, hey, are you like, and again, I'm not trying to go for the term bipolar pastor. I'm just like, bracing myself, because that's probably what I'm going to get called. Like, are you, you're the one who does the video. And I've already had that happen. Like, we were at a restaurant about a month ago, and I have another channel where I do fitness stuff, and someone was like, hey, the waitress was like, hey, it's kind of a weird question, but are you the guy who does the video? I'm like, yeah, it's me, And then, at the gym, I've had people come up and say that they like my videos and stuff. So it's given me a little bit of a platform with the fitness stuff. I think this will be even more so. Yeah, probably even more so. So with that, I would love if, like, for any kind of the hardship that this will bring in terms of losing people, already lost some, the nice thing would be, like, if I could be, and someone could be like, hey, I watch your videos. Could I schedule a counseling session with you? Or could you pray with me? Or could I talk with you? Or something that God could use that to, in a very tangible way, really be able to open up and reach some people who just feel unreached. So, yeah. I think that's all I have to talk about for this. Like I said, I will do a follow-up video that will go into much more detail on certain things about my experience as essentially a bipolar pastor, what type of bipolar I have, what it's kind of like, all that kind of stuff. So that will be, probably will call that video like bipolar pastor, and that video will be coming. So this is kind of like, the little bit more low-key soft launch. And then that video will go into a little more detail. So again, I'm probably going to post this natively on YouTube and my personal Facebook, and I'll probably share that over on the church Facebook page. Instead of sharing the YouTube link like I've been doing for these, I'm going to probably start posting natively on my personal page, and then share that over the church page. So either where you watch it, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube, or if you're seeing pieces as cut, but I guess you wouldn't see, because I'd have to cut this particular piece. Anyways, leave a comment. I'll also be taking, shorter pieces and putting on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all those places that can then point back to this video. And yeah, so I will take all the comments from all those different platforms, and I will, as best I can, address as many of them as thoroughly as I can in this kind of like this part 2. So this is part 3 of this 3 pillars video. I have been putting this off for quite a while. I felt like today was the day. Because if nothing else, in honor of my grandpa, just, you know, being courageous to just finally do this. Yeah, I think that's all I got. So feel free to leave your questions or comments, and I will do my best. And yes, I know, for those of you that I cut little shorts out and put in, I know I need to cut my hair. I get it. Bible says men shouldn't have long hair. It doesn't, but I know you think that. And feel free to completely miss the entire point of this video and just jump straight to the comment I always get from my Southern Baptist preacher brethren in the South telling me I need to cut my hair. Can I point out that all the people who tell me that are also about 100 pounds overweight, and that doesn't seem, gluttony doesn't seem to be an issue for them, but my long hair is a problem? Maybe one more reason we need to have pastors who can be open and talk about some of this kind of stuff, because if those are the messages we're giving, we're going to ignore gluttony and be super fat, but long hair is an abomination and the rapture doesn't exist. Those are the 2 comments I get the most. Cut your hair. Bible says not to have long hair, and the rapture doesn't exist. Those are my 2 most common comments. So we'll see. So I'm sure this will open me up to a whole new batch of comments. So here we go. If you're on YouTube, you know, like and subscribe. Facebook, whatever you do on Facebook, follow, I guess. But yeah, leave comments, questions and comments, and I will address those in this next video. Pretty sure I'm going to call it Bipolar Pastor, just so as many people can see it as possible. And that will get some attention if anyone didn't see this video. So have a good night. And I hope this is a blessing to some of you, because it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun recording, and I'm dreading, like, I'm going to be on the road, so I'm going to edit this tonight and publish this to go live tomorrow at 11:59. If you haven't figured that out yet, my videos go live at 11:59. And I will be picking up my old senior pastor's daughter from the airport. So at 11:59, we will probably be eating tacos in Las Vegas. And yeah, probably start getting comments. So that'll be fun.